أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. My dear brother and sister in Islam and in humanity, I greet you with the greeting of Islam, with the greeting of peace. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, all praise is due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We send blessings and salutations to our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, I know that all of you are very tired, right? No? But why the salam is like, you know, the energizer is going down? Once more, right? Okay, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Okay, feel better, alhamdulillah. Okay, at least I know that you guys have taken your lunch, alhamdulillah. Oh no? Okay. Okay, now alhamdulillah. Okay, of course today, the focus will not be on me, because the focus will be on these two ladies on my right hand side. Okay, I'm just the moderator. Although last year I'm the only speaker, but this year I told Saini that enough is enough. Okay, I think enough of beard men in front of you. So let's have some mixture. You know, in Malaysia we have basembo, we have char kway teow, we like champurizations, right? Yeah, so we use some champurizations here. And because here we are not only having Asian people, we have all the way from America. Yeah, you should know who is, inshallah, she's going to introduce herself later. Now, let me introduce you just a little bit about our panelists today. Okay, before that, my name is Firdaus Wong Wei Hong. Do not mispronounce my name to become Wong Fei Hong, please. Okay, yeah. Alhamdulillah, coming this August will be my 10 years in Islam. Coming this 10th of August, it will become my 10th anniversary. So in case later you guys found out that I do not pray my Maghrib, don't blame me, don't whack me yet. Because according to Islamic rules, only after 10 years you can whack them. Okay? Yeah. Okay, alhamdulillah. Okay, now, on my right, okay, this is Aliza Kim, okay, ex-model, ex-Miss Teen USA. I'm not talking about Miss Kampong, yeah? This is USA, okay? US, man. Okay? You know, the American people, they only know American exists in this world. Nobody else. Yeah? They don't even know where is Kuala Lumpur. Later you will find out more, inshallah, from Alisa. Okay? And of course, on her right is Mary Ann Goi Pepe, her full name. She don't like her name to be in full, but normally this is how we joke with one another. Now, let's proceed to the first questions. And of course, all of you will be given opportunity to ask questions. And of course, relevant questions, yeah? Okay, relevant questions. Don't ask about something that doesn't in line with our team, with our objective today. Now, maybe the first question is to Aliza, since she's staring at me. Is, you know, what American, yeah? I'm American. Okay, now, Aliza, maybe first thing I think our participants would like to know, our crowd would like to know is that, what is your, maybe a little bit about your background. Who are you? Of course people know you're ex-model, this and that, but to what extent? Because some people, they just appear on their own Facebook, they call themselves as model, right? So, I mean, what extent that you are a model and believe that you are also TV host, and what is your perceptions about Islam before you become a Muslim? Your perception about Islam, please.
Okay, hi, Assalamualaikum, my name is Aliza, I'm American. I speak louder than everyone else, as you can tell, because I'm American and I'm going to talk a lot as well. Well, okay, to what extent? Well, I should start off with, first of all, I have a master's degree, so I do have some kind of education instead of just being a model and whatever else that I was. But I have a master's degree in business and international marketing. I got that when I was 22. And I found out that no one listens to a 22-year-old manager. So I came back out and I had actually, has anyone actually heard of The Cosby Show? The Cosby Show. Okay. my first exposure on TV wasn't on the Cosby Show, but I was 12 years old and I was selected to be on an after-school talk show program with Mrs. Crosby. She was the host. So that was the first time I was on TV. And then after that, I don't know, one thing led to another. I talked well, maybe. And I wasn't camera shy, so my first campaign was for China. And then I moved to Thailand and did sitcoms. I was, on TV, acting, all these kind of things. So when you say, what is my exposure, I don't know. I've shot maybe 100 commercials. I don't know if that counts for anything, but I don't think that I'm anyone. It's just my job. That was my job. This is your job. That was my job. That's how I made a living. Yeah. So, but anyway, getting back to Islam.
What is your perceptions about it? Americans have this problem. Yeah, Americans have this problem where when they talk too much, they forgot the first question. Yeah, just get used to it.
Usually the first question is how did you come into Islam? But this one was different. This is what was your perception of Islam? Okay, my perception was no perception. Isn't that it? No perception. My first exposure to Islam was when I was 17 or 18 years old. I was in a Jesuit college. Do you guys know what Jesuits are? They are these brown robe Catholic monks, and they walk around, they do gardening, and they teach at colleges. So I was at a Jesuit college, and my first exposure, I think he was one of the priests. I don't think he was a monk, but he might have been one of the priests. But anyway, I was taking a comparative religions course, and they talked about Islam very briefly. So I heard Islam, I heard Muslims, and I learned nothing else. But the thing is that my father is a religious leader. He's a Christian, and he's known as a religious leader. But, so, I mean, growing up, I had always been exposed to religion. I was always around religious leaders. And whenever my father would go to these, interfaith talks, I would always ask him, so how is everything? How is everyone? And he would always say, everyone was fine. Everyone prayed in their own way. Everyone was very polite. Everything was fine. So my perception was no perception. Neither bad nor good. I just thought, okay, there are Muslims in the world. That's all. So even when 9/11 hit, I was in my first day of master's degree. First day. So I remember it very well. I woke up and everyone was running around. I was like, what's up? It's the first day of school. What's going on? So that whole day we ended up watching the news, and we sat in class and watched news, and we didn't do anything else. But even then, I was just like, there's bad people in the world. There's bad people everywhere. There's good people, there's bad people, these people are bad. I didn't associate that with Muslims or anything. So my perception before becoming a Muslim was no perception. It's just, there are Muslims, that's it.
That's all?
That's all.
I mean, it's more about, a little bit about your background, Who is your father, it's a Christian.
More storytelling.
Yes, okay. More storytelling.
Well, okay, more about my father. My father is a Christian religious leader. He's a missionary. So my upbringing was very different than other people. I mean, usually you grow up with your parents, you go to school and all this. Not me. I followed my missionary father into the jungles in Thailand. We actually drove our car to a village, parked it there, rode one of those long motorboats, into the jungle for 3 hours, and then we walked through the jungle for another 4 hours where I saw wild elephants, and we reached these hill tribes. And so this was my life. So I grew up very different than other people, but it was very blessed because I was very near God. I mean, I was a good Christian girl. I was very near God. I always believed in God. Whenever I was in trouble, I would always go back to religion. But subhanAllah, the amazing thing is that even though my father is a religious leader and he is a missionary, he wasn't so close to me that he indoctrinated me with Trinity and all this, because he was off doing his mission somewhere else, and he assumed me, being the preacher's daughter, would just get it. And even though I got God, it was never like when I prayed, I think it was Allah was really protecting me. I never prayed, oh Jesus. Never. I always prayed, oh Lord. I always prayed to the above. So, and even when it was in the name of, when people prayed in the name of Jesus, I was always like, why do I? No, in the name of my my Lord. So, I had these things in me where I see it as a protection. So I grew up very differently. I grew up with someone who was very religious, but at the same time, someone who was very neutral. So he never put down any religion, alhamdulillah. Even to this day, now that I'm a Muslim, I had a very easy time with my father. My father is the correct type of religious person, who knows that you don't force someone into religion, who knows that the purpose of religion is to give you hope, is to give you peace, to give you faith. So I grew up with a very wonderful father. So that's the father's side. My mother, also very supportive, she grew up as a village girl, very much so. So my perspective with her was she was an etiquette teacher. Do you have etiquette teachers here? She was a Thai etiquette teacher. So even though I'm bubbly like this, growing up, my mother is the type where if you make noise when you're walking, she'll take a ruler and whack your foot. Why are you making noise? So my mother was a Thai etiquette teacher. So I really know, like when I'm in Thailand, I know I'm supposed to just smile, don't talk so much, And so I grew up with very religious father, Thai etiquette mother. So the upbringing was very different than other people. Yeah. So I had always sought for structure in my life. People always say, no, I want more freedom in my life. I want to experience life to the fullest. Me, I was a little bit the opposite. I always wanted more structure. So, religion always, I thought, should be a structure. And I don't want to go ahead of myself in case you want to save this for later, but, part of religion for me at that time was I was always looking for structure, but I didn't quite find it in Christianity, to tell you the truth. You're supposed to be a good person, and you're supposed to, so-called do all these good things, but what exactly really is good? Because, before my master's degree, I have a double degree in sociology and economics. So economics was for my dad, because he didn't understand sociology. But sociology was extremely beneficial to me, because you know what it is? It is the study of groups of people and how they interact with each other. That's what sociology is. So when I think about religion, it's groups of people interacting with each other, among themselves, and also with other groups. So for me, structure for me I would always look at religion and think, okay, if I need to structure my life and structure my life according to myself and also the communities I live in, it would always be religion. But I didn't find it in Christianity. So I always thought, okay, no, but I'm a good preacher's girl, I have to be my daddy's little girl, I have to do this role, but I always had a void. So I mean, alhamdulillah, I had the upbringing that I had the open mind that I had, but again, there was a void. So is that enough storytelling?
Well, if you want to
I can keep on going.
Yeah.
I'm American.
Yes, you're American. Why not? This is going to be a very casual session, yeah? Anything else that you want to add on?
No, well, you asked about perspective, and this perspective is none, but I always knew that religion was something that should be big in your life. God was definitely real. I felt Him through my veins and through my life, always. Whenever I felt like I couldn't do something, then I could. I knew God was real. But the thing is that I always felt like, yes, I believe at that time in Christianity, but was there more? And I mean, I'm sure we'll get to this later, but the perception of Islam only came later on. And my perception of Islam is also very different than other people, but I'll tell you guys that later. Let Marianne talk a bit first.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much. Now, basically, there's something that's in the month of Ramadan that Aliza is hiding from us. You know what is that? She didn't inform us that her father is sitting at the Council of Churches in Geneva. Geneva is a council of churches for the Protestant, which means it's not ordinary priest or pastor. Her father is a pastor, not ordinary pastor, but a world leader. Yeah. So you imagine a world-class missionary daughter become a Muslim here, and she's not only a model, but she's beauty with brain. Yeah. That's why she emphasized, hey man, I have master's degree, right? Okay, and 2 double degree in sociology and as economic. Yeah. Okay. Now, to proceed further, of course, now it's to Marianne. Of course, I believe that they would also like to know about your perception, living in Malaysia in particular, because in America maybe you don't really have a lot of Muslim interaction and so on. But whereas you was brought up here, Okay? So what is your perceptions about Islam? And of course, before talking about the perceptions, just a little bit introductions about your life, your background before, in order for them to understand you better. Please.
I understand that in the month of Ramadan, everyone's really tired, so I'm going to try and keep it short and summarize everything. Okay, I think Aliza will make quite a good team because we're kind of like opposites. I represent basically everything that she did not represent, or she represents everything that I was not, okay? I was born in PJ, lived my whole life in Klang Valley. I am your typical Chinese urban girl, okay? So if you're out there in the corporate world and you're working in KL, chances are you know a lot of people like me, okay? And I want to highlight that because I want you to think about those friends of yours who are exactly like me when you hear me speak, because what I lacked then is probably what they lack, and where Allah helped me and the people who helped me along the way is probably where you can help those people in your lives, right? I was born into a Chinese Buddhist family. It's not Buddhism in the true sense. I don't know if you know, in Malaysia, it's a lot of mix with Taoism and culture and all that kind of thing, right? So we grew up, my dad is not particularly religious. My mom, basically, she follows tradition. Okay, so she taught us, we had an altar in the house. So during religious festivals, we go to the temple, and then every day, if I am a bad girl, I have to kneel in front of the altar and, you know, with my hands on my ears and stand for an hour and say sorry to God on the floor. Okay, we had a God on the floor, and we had a God like on the, it was called the God of the heavens, and then there's the one of the floor. Okay, so that was my life. I grew up believing in God. Alhamdulillah, I was never one who said like, no, I don't know whether there's a God. I always thought, okay, yeah, I think there has to be a God. And I used to pray to Him, believing that there's something above that I didn't really understand. But it was just that. So of course, as you grow older, as you become a teenager, and then if you're living in a Chinese urban family, okay, your values start to change. So by the time I was in secondary school, teenage, and going out to work, my values were, okay, there's a God, but I'm not really looking for religion. I did go attend some classes and try to learn about Buddhism, because I figured, okay, I'm a Buddhist. It says I'm a Buddhist in my birth cert, so I might as well find out what it is about. But I didn't really go deeply into it, and the reason for it is because my religion very quickly became doing well in school, getting the best grades, because you know you may not get a place in university if you don't do very well. You're not going to get a scholarship, because this is what indoctrinated into me, right? And then the most important thing for me to do was to graduate so that I could get a good job, so that I could then put the down payment on a car, and put the down payment on a house, and then get married, and then have children. And that was my religion, okay? Those were the rules and the guidelines by which I led my life, or I was taught to live my life. Those were the rules that my schoolmates in school held. Those were the values that they held. And those were the values that my relatives held. You know, so every time there was a family gathering, it was about whose child did better in SPM and who got a fancy good job now, earning how much. You know, so it was like that. That was my background. But it didn't bother me because sadly, unlike Aliza, I was not very God conscious. Like I said, I believed in Him, but I didn't rely on Him very much. I always thought like, my perspective was, you are the king or the master of your own destiny kind of thing, right? So if you want to do well in life, then you have to work hard. So it was just that, never this idea of relying on anything else. And according to those values that I held, that my family held, I thought my life was quite good. And all the more I didn't have to look at religion. And I think, sadly, a lot of us are like that. And I think a lot of the Chinese in Malaysia are like that. Because you don't turn to religion, or at least I thought, you don't turn to religion unless something bad happens to your life, or you feel lost, you know, you have some kind of emotional crisis, and then you feel empty inside, and then you look for answers beyond your daily routine, right? I didn't have that. Alhamdulillah, I was like doing okay in school, I managed to get the job, I managed to get quite a good career. I graduated in law from University Malaya, And then the firm I joined, you know, we rolled with the top level corporates. So we traveled a lot. So it was like, oh, my life is very good. I don't need religion. And that was how I was for a long, long time. My perception of Islam. Okay, I asked before this talk, one of the sisters in the hall, whether the people who will be attending the talk are open-minded people who are okay with a very direct approach, or do I need to sugarcoat things? And she assured me that no, the people here are very okay one.
Mr. Mutu,
don't worry. Because I want to be very honest, because I feel by being honest, it helps us to understand how non-Muslims see us. And I think that's important to help us see ourselves in the mirror, and also try and maybe not be defensive all the time when we get this kind of treatment from non-Muslims, right? And try and actually put ourselves in their shoes and see why. So now I'm going to tell you, because I was once there on the other side of the fence, okay? I can tell you what I thought of Muslims and what I thought of Malays. Okay, it's very sensitive, but because in Malaysia at least, the Malay and equals Muslim. Muslim equals Malay. You know, it's like a one and the same thing kind of thing. Okay, so how did I see Islam stroke Malays? Imagine I grew, this is the environment in which I grew up. The school that I went to, the top classes were all Chinese. Because I was in a mix, you know, there were Indians, Malays and all that. And it was like a thing where the ones who do well will always be like the Chinese somehow. So I had this perception like, oh, the Chinese are the hardworking ones, right? And then when it came to secondary school, I was told, you know, because your parents don't work in some government agency, you're not going to get a scholarship, okay? So if you don't make it to the few places that they leave for Chinese in every course, you're not going to go to university at all. So this again was like, why so not fair? Why, you know, I had this perception. Of course I had some resentment in me, like, we're all Malaysians, aren't we? My parents pay tax, don't we? Why is it that I cannot get a scholarship? So, okay, but this is how I saw it. Imagine, imagine if you were me, okay? Then I went out to the workforce. Alhamdulillah, in the workforce, I didn't feel it so much. The firm that I had, it was okay. You know, they judged you according to your ability and your competency. But at the back of my mind, always, in the back of my family's mind, the back of my friends' mind, all my non-Muslim friends, they saw Muslims as a group of, in Malaysia, privileged people who didn't have to try so hard, who got things easily, and who basically, it didn't give a very positive image to me, because all I could see was, on the one extreme, I could see rules, right? It's like, no, cannot eat pork, cannot drink alcohol, you know, they have to cover your head, and all these things which I couldn't understand, right? On the other hand, it didn't come packaged with like beautiful akhlaq. It didn't come packaged with virtues, Islamic virtues, like honesty and diligence and all the beautiful things that Rasulullah represented, right? So I didn't see all those things. I just saw all the rules, and then I saw a lack of success. So it didn't really, honestly, I didn't feel attracted to what they were doing. I mean, they never crossed my mind, oh, what is Islam all about? I think I want to go and learn because they seem to be so happy or nice or good or successful. Nothing. I had nothing. I had no desire whatsoever, actually, to learn, right? So I was not prejudiced against it. I accepted that, yeah, you have your reasons for wearing the hijab and not eating pork and not drinking, but I never felt like, oh, I want to be like them. Yeah? And sadly, my whole life, until I actually was introduced to this Islamic center where I went for classes and finally learned about Islam, alhamdulillah, there was Allah's plan for me. But up until that time, although I had Muslim friends, not a single one ever shared with me anything about Islam. Nobody tried to tell me about Tawheed, nobody tried to and make me think about one God or Akhirat, nothing. So my perception remained the same from the time I was a child up until that very day when I went for classes in the Islamic Center. And that, sadly, was my perspective of Islam. Very honest, I'm so sorry if I offended anyone, but I hope you forgive me.
Inshallah, in the month of Ramadan, they are very forgiving. Yeah? I think they still can smile, they still can laugh. I think it's still alhamdulillah. Now, of course, I think we can get more spicy than this, right? Or no, we just, I think that will be the max. Can go spicier? Okay. Anybody from Negeri Sembilan? Nogori, okay, Lomak Cili Api, okay, fine. Make sure you can eat spicier. Okay, I mean, having said so, if you look into the perspective of how Mary Ann explained about, I mean, this is generally the understanding of the non-Muslim Chinese in Malaysia, including me. Yeah, including me about the perceptions. Just imagine that.
Oh, excuse me, although he looks Malay, he's actually Chinese.
Okay, see, of course, no problem.
I have something to add.
Okay, good. Proceed. You want to add something?
Yeah, well, I wasn't sure about the level of whatever that we can say until Mary Ann started, so I was just storytelling.
No, the bar is higher, you know.
Okay, now it's higher.
You know how tall is KLCC? It's as tall as that, yeah? Okay, now, you see, when she interrupted me, I forget what I was saying. Okay, now, you just imagine that I'm quite opposite. She's opposite of Aliza. I'm quite opposite of Mary Ann. Yeah, of course, I'm not the panelist, but I think I can share a little bit about my experience as well. She grew up in a very mixed school and so on. Same with me, but the difference is that I have a lot of Muslim friends, Malay friends, because I'm a footballer. Yeah. So in the States football team, under 12, under 14, under 16, Kuala Lumpur, under 18, I'm the only Chinese. In Malaysia, under 17, I'm the only Chinese. In the Malaysia, under 21, I'm the only Chinese. Just imagine, I'm the only Chinese. Okay, but everyone are Malay or maybe 2, 3 Indian. Just imagine one China, one Chinese in the squad. But nobody ever told me about Islam. As what Mary Ann said as well, about the akhlaq as well. They don't even manifest that, okay, this is an Islamic teaching, you should be good, blah, blah, blah. But the same thing, I don't see anything from it. Yeah? It's become more disappointed that, you know, they don't even share with me, and when I become Muslim, they keep on asking me about all the fake questions, have you potong or not, this and that. Yeah? So, you can just, I mean, it gives that kind of perceptions to the not yet Muslim that, you know, the Muslim has nothing good to do except to hurt people. Yeah? To hurt people, to injure people. Tak. Potong your head lah, potong everything potong. Yeah? Now, let's get back to Mary Ann. Of course, right after this round, it's going to be a round, which is you are going to have a free flow to ask questions. Okay? So get ready with your question, but of course, I am going to welcome written question first. Yeah? Written question first. You can address to any one of them.
Wait, before you go on, I wanted to add a little bit, because I wasn't sure how, like you said, spicy it could get. So now I want to add on a little bit.
Okay. You see, American always, you know, they hide a lot of things.
No, because I mean the perception, what I gave you was really the perception before I landed in Malaysia. Now, if you want to know what my experience became once I came to Malaysia, it's also very different from you, and also very different from you, because what I was doing was I was shooting the commercials and I was shooting TV movies with Malaysians. But the thing is that when I landed here, I was like, okay, Malaysia. I had no idea where Malaysia was. I had no plan to come to Malaysia.
American.
I didn't know anything about Malaysia except for Malaysian Airlines air hostesses were pretty. And that's all I knew, because I mean my parents are from Thailand. Thai people only know Malaysians speak English well, and Malaysian Airlines hostesses are pretty. That's what we know. Okay, so I actually came to Malaysia at first to shoot a big budget TV commercial, alhamdulillah. But then I came back and I stayed here for some time, and I was working with so-called Muslim Malays on these projects. Like mostly, you know, still the commercials, but I did one TV movie we shot it during Ramadan. And that was like my big exposure, actually my first big exposure to Muslim Malays. And what I thought of them was, they're no different than anyone else. And unfortunately, I hope you can take this, unfortunately they weren't practicing, you know. And because we were shooting a Pontianak movie, we were up at night and sleeping during the day, so fasting meant almost nothing. We would wake up just in time for Maghrib. I would hear the azan be like, oh, dinner time. They didn't explain to me what it was. And then, you know, maybe because of the industry too, you know, I befriended the director, I befriended some of the actresses and actors, and honestly, they were just as wild as any of the other models and actors. Just as wild. So I said to myself, I'm better off as a Christian. I'm more well-behaved and everything. I'm much better off as a Christian. And I actually please don't get offended. I actually told one of them who wanted to date me, I was like, I'm never going to become a Muslim. Why would I want to become a Muslim? Of course, Allah had other plans, right? But I said to him, why would I want to become a Muslim? Look at you, you're so wild. I don't want to be like that. So that was, but again, it could have been just because I was, you know, with the actors and actresses and all the models and everything. It could have been that. But once I landed in Malaysia, it was more like, oh, the Muslims are no different than anyone else, anywhere else. All the same, no difference. So I also didn't like what Marianne was saying. I didn't see, at first, I didn't see the beauty of the character. I didn't see the beauty of the religion. It was just like, it's just like a wild Christian. I'm a tame Christian. I'd rather be a tame Christian, you know. So that's how I saw it once I landed. It changed a lot after I met some more friends, and I was like, you know, and some of the Chinese friends were saying all the stereotypical things about the Malays. You know, I won't go into that, but I was like, but the Malays that I know are very nice. The Malays that I know are quite hardworking. What they're saying doesn't seem to be true. So then I looked into it a little bit more.
For sure, I believe that they're going to ask you, what is that kind of stereotype that people told you? Trust me, I know them. These are our people. Okay, now, I think they switch off the aircon, right? It's getting hotter, right? No? Okay, now, questions to Mary Ann. You see, despite that living in Malaysia, that and of course with the media playing a great role in it to propagate that what type of religion Islam is, that Islam oppress women, Islam discriminate women, and all sort of bad things talking about Islam is against women liberty, liberal, etc., etc. I mean, but at the end of the day, you are having a very successful career. She's a corporate, so-called corporate leader as well. We're having very successful, alhamdulillah. Yeah. But at the end of the day, having so many things and having so many medias against Islam, talking bad about being a Muslim woman. Wow. But at the end of the day, now you end up as a Muslim. How about that? And why Islam? Why not other religions? I don't know, like tame Christians?
Where do I begin? Okay, let's go back a little bit. You have to think of me at the time. I was lawyer by training, so I think very logically. I cannot accept anything that doesn't have some sense to it, some structure to it. I cannot accept things like, oh, just believe, don't ask me questions. I cannot accept that kind of approach. And also, I was not looking for religion. I was not like doing a search and analyzing everything, right? And then I was introduced to this Islamic center where I was very surprised. For the first time I attended a class, they were teaching Islam and it was in English. So that broke my first initial Malay equals Muslim thing, right? And then in the class itself, there were many colored people. So there was again another change of paradigm shift in my mind. Okay, that Islam, oh, maybe it's not Malay after all, and maybe it's okay. So I thought, okay, let's learn, see what they have to teach. I wasn't expecting a lot. In fact, I already had this view that all religion is probably man-made. Although there is a God, all these things, these rules that they lay down is probably some guy came up with this along the way, put it into a book and asked everyone to follow, and everyone is just like, you know, sheep following and all that, right? So I didn't expect to be blown away. I didn't expect to fall in love. I just, okay, look, whatever, let's just learn. Then, when I started learning Islam, it's like the little pieces of the puzzle just fit together. right? I always believed in God, right? But I didn't know who He was. So when I learned what Islam taught me about Allah, who He was, how He was, everything made sense. Then I had like lots of questions. So many questions I felt that I would never have answers to. How can they ever explain the hijab? How can they ever explain, okay, and then I realized there were certain questions that I never even thought to ask myself, which is the most important question in our lives, I would think, which is what is the purpose of our life? Really, what are we supposed to do when we're on this earth? I never thought to ask, because I thought, you know, you just live your life and then you do your best, and then if you feel like you have a void in your life, you look for some religion that makes you feel better about yourself. If you have no void and you're quite happy with your career and your family and all that, then you don't have to be religious, it's fine. It never occurred to me that there is something called life after death. It never occurred to me that after I die, there will be something called heaven and hell and Jannah and Jahannam. And it never occurred to me. So when I learned this, it was like a really big slap in the face. Because I think up until that point, I was quite like arrogant. You know, you think after a while, you think you're quite clever, you know all the answers, and you know all these religious people, what do they know? They're just very backward and conservative people, right? Who like to follow rules. So it hit me that I was too arrogant to even ask myself questions like, who is God? What happens to me when I die? Is there something I'm supposed to do while I'm alive? Is there any difference whether I do it or I don't do it? You know? And when these questions hit me, I became a bit, in a way, I would say, maybe scared. What's going to happen to me if I don't start acknowledging this truth that I have found? And at the same time, the logic part of me, okay, this teacher, mashallah, whatever questions I had, he always had the answer. Okay? And it was never, oh, I think like this, or I think like this. He would always give me evidence. Okay? Here's the answer, and here is why the answer is this, it comes from here. And it always went back to the Quran, it always went back to Sunnah, right? There was always, and it always, everything made sense. As much as I didn't want to acknowledge it, I had to admit that there was no question that I could think to ask that I couldn't find any answer to. So I think it came to a point where I just had to, it's like that truth is staring you in the face, and you just have to make a decision whether you want to acknowledge is the truth or you just ignore it. Right? The truth doesn't stop becoming the truth just because you pretend that it's not. So I came to a point where I felt like I didn't have a choice. I knew now about Jannah and Jahannam, and I had to make a decision whether I want to risk Jahannam or whether I would want to just embrace the truth, although it came with a lot of rules. Yeah, I didn't have a choice, and so alhamdulillah, I made a decision to become Muslim, and my relationship with Allah has grown from that day on. He has done amazing things to my life, and if you talk about the rules, I never made my choice based on the rules. I never thought about, can I give up pork? If I can, then I'll be Muslim. Or can I bring myself to wear hijab? If I can, then I'll be. It wasn't about that at all. It was about, do I want to save myself from hellfire, or do I don't mind going to hellfire? Of course, I wasn't so stupid. I come to a point, it's like so stupid. If you you're standing at a cliff, you were blind and you jump off, then that's not your fault. Like if you're literally looking at it and then you choose to jump, it's like quite stupid. So I was not stupid enough to do that, alhamdulillah. And obviously, when you make choices in life, they come with sacrifices, I would think, maybe. At that time, I may have seen it as a sacrifice, I suppose, although it wasn't very difficult for me, alhamdulillah, to give up, to change my diet and all that. But, initially, it came as, yes, if I can accept that I'm made by Allah and that He knows what's good for me, even if I may not, why can I not accept that He, the inventor of the machine, knows best how the machine works, right? He's the one that comes up with the manual to tell you how to operate the machine to its optimal level, right? So why can I not, as a human being, just acknowledge that Allah knows what's best for me? Whether I'm ready to do it, whether I'm not ready to do it, that is my weakness. But I'm not in a position to say like, oh no, I think I'm Muslim, but I want to be a liberal one. I don't actually think hijab is necessary. I never reached that point. I just knew that, okay, these are his rules and he knows best, and then pray that I will slowly get to the point where I will want to embrace his rules. But as time went on, Allah does amazing things to your heart and to your mind. He makes everything so easy that you no longer see these rules as some kind of like a sacrifice. It becomes like something that makes you happier, more fulfilled, and closer to him every time you kind of put him first. Do something that you feel you don't want to do, and then you do it anyway for him, and when after you've done it, you look back and think like, oh, I should have done it earlier, So it was like this for me. The rules was not the decision, and alhamdulillah, I did not allow it to be the obstacle to prevent me from making the most important choice of my life, which I'm so thankful that I did.
Alhamdulillah. But you forgot to mention to them since when you embraced Islam?
Oh, 8 years ago.
MashaAllah. So she's 2 years juniors. 2 years juniors. Well, I forgot to mention to share with all of you that basically 3 of us have a certain connections. Yeah? It's not that we are siblings to one another, not from the same father and the same mother. Yeah, if you're talking about Adam and Eve, there is difference. Yeah, but basically, the place where she learned, okay, is the place where I found my inspirations to become a better Muslim 4 years ago. She found it much earlier than me, 8 years ago. Yeah, the place that where Mary Ann brought Aliza there is the same place, which means that we have not.
We met each other.
Oh, you met each other there, yes. It's called Akadim, and our teacher is Sheikh Husseini. He's a local Malaysian, revert as well for 40 over years, but up until today people still call him Mu'alaf. I don't understand that. Yeah. And the one who introduced him as Mu'alaf also, he's only 30 years old, and Sheikh Husseini has become Muslim 40 over years old, so who is Mu'alaf now? Yeah. And of course, we study in the Aris University, diploma courses. So both of them have diploma in Islamic study, but I don't because I stopped midway, too busy with other schedule. But right now, both of them are going into advanced diploma, right?
Later.
No.
She already.
Yes, advanced diploma. You are at the end of the year. Yes. Yes. So there's a lot of things, which means that this is something that to tell us that being a Muslim doesn't mean that you stop learning. Now let's ask ourselves one question, very simple questions, before I proceed to Aliza. Ask ourselves a very simple question. When is the last time that we learned about Salat? When is the last time? Most probably, deep in your heart, you have the answer that during primary school. That's the last time. You just imagine, primary school is like 10, 20 years ago. Can you just imagine you having your first iPhone 3? Okay, I'm not talking about 3GS, yeah? If you do not upgrade to what is now iOS, what? 8? 6 plus. No, that is a model. But the iOS 8. Just imagine if you're still using 3G phone, okay, but you're using the previous iOS, but not upgrade to iOS 8. If the phones, we have to upgrade when there is a new software update. If you don't upgrade, what is going to happen? It's going to lagging, right? Hanging, your WhatsApp hang, it's not responding, blah blah blah. Just imagine that the last time we learned about Salat is like 20 years ago, and this Salat is going not to connect to the modem or Wi-Fi, it's going to connect us to Allah. So how is our connection with Allah? Will it be lagging? Do we ever think about that as well? Which means being a Muslim doesn't mean that we stop to learn. Being a Muslim means that we have to be extra, arrange our timetable, because you see the 5-time prayer itself is to teach us about time management. So we should have time for dunya and for time for akhirah. Actually, we don't do justice enough for our akhirah. How long are we going to live in the akhirah? If let's say we make it to Jannah forever. Now how long are you going to live in this world? 66, give you 100 years. I don't think any one of you will ask for 100 years, right? Yeah? Okay, let's take about 100 years. 100 years versus eternity. But compared to the time that you spend for this dunya and the time that you spend for your akhirah, which amount of time that you spend the most? For the dunya. Which means Safely we can say 95% of our time spent for the dunya, but not for the akhirah. But we know that we're going for the akhirah for eternity. So how? No balance there. So which means we have to continue to strive to become a better Muslim. Yeah, I believe this is not the first time that every one of you here that ever listened to revert sharing their inspiration story. Sometimes I get fed up of people inviting me, can you share your story? Yeah, seriously, I get fed up. I say, now, what have you guys learned? I always ask them, what have you guys learned from listening to so many reverts sharing their journey? Have you ever changed? If not, then you just, MashaAllah, Subhanallah, so many secrets, MashaAllah, MashaAllah. At the end of the day, Alhamdulillah, and then Allahu Akbar, Bismillah, Allahumma barik lana. That's all. No changes. So what do you get at the end? Just like my teacher said, Sheikh Kamal Al-Makki, he said, sometimes we get the story in the Quran, but we don't get the lesson. The same thing. Sometimes you get the story from the revert, but you don't get the lesson. So we should get the lesson and improve on ourselves. Not only reminder for you, but basically it's reminder for myself first. Now, proceed to Aliza. Yeah. Now, Aliza, like for her, she's in a corporate world, but for you, you are still young. Yeah, spicy. You know, the spice girl. Yeah, young, and then you're on demand, yeah, hot model, good model, and on TV show. I mean, you are at a level that a lot of young ladies today aspire to be. They want to be like you. But then at the end of the day, what made you suddenly decide to stop and quit every single thing? Just like Sheikh Ahmad said, just like that. How come? And then now, come on, with your hijab, I mean, last time you can eat pork chop. Now only chicken chop, no pork chop. Yeah. Last time you can drink beer, now no more beer, only root beer and ginger beer. No, I mean, why? Out of silence. Out of silence.
Okay, well, it wasn't quite all of a sudden. You have to remember I was a religious girl anyway. Yeah, my father was religious. I grew up in a religious family, so religion was already a big part of me anyway. But it just so happened that when I was a 22-year-old senior manager, no one listened to me. So I had to find something else. And the easiest thing was for me to go back to modeling, because you know, you take a few photos, you kind of pass them around, and you start to get jobs, hopefully. And I mean, alhamdulillah, I got a lot of jobs. And so I just kept on going until it just became a profession by accident. You know, but you have to remember that even though, if we put Islam aside for a moment, and we're only looking at the secular world, being in the limelight, being a model, being an actress, being a TV host, this is something that a lot of people, not just women, aspire to. This is something that people feel like they have appreciation, they have pride in, you know, people admire them. But, I mean, for me, yes, it was, for me, I actually honestly just saw it as my job, but after a while, it was almost like slavery to me. And why do I say that? It was like slavery to me because my life was not my own. You know, what I looked like, I had no esteem in, because it didn't matter if I liked what I looked like or not. It only mattered what someone else liked. You know, if my client liked the way that I looked, fine. If my client looked like the clothes that I was wearing, fine. So there was no self-consciousness, there was no self-esteem, there was no self-confidence. I outsourced everything about myself. All of my feelings about myself, whatever I liked, was outsourced. If that person liked it, I liked it. So I had no sense of me at all. And I can tell you, like, how bad it was, is that in America especially, when you're a model, it doesn't matter if you're a runway model or commercial model. Commercial model, you play mommy, you play teacher. Okay, I did a lot of that, yeah? Runway model is, you know, like, runway model, yeah. So I did a lot more of the commercial, but it didn't matter. In America, they actually will ask a young girl, if you imagine, you know, when you're a young girl, 13, 14, 15 years old, this is when you're really learning about yourself. Yeah, you're figuring out who you are. But for me, because I was in the modeling, I was in the pageants, yeah, people would actually ask you, okay, stand there. Take off your outer clothes. We have to check if you have scars. So they will look at your skin, they will look for your scars, they will tell you where you're too fat, where you're too skinny. They will criticize you from head to toe. And if you're a 13, 14, 15-year-old girl, do you really think that's going to help your self-esteem? No, it destroys it. So, you know, I can say that I've been slowly destroyed inside more and more as I got more popular. I don't want to say that I was very popular, but I mean, as, you know, my popularity grew, as my demand grew, somehow the pieces of clothing also became fewer. You know, it just becomes that way until, you know, the pictures that people really remember me as, it's not really the commercials, it's those bikini shoots, those artistic photography in the ocean rolling around shoots. Those are the ones that people say, oh, Lisa, you were so amazing, it was such a beautiful picture, I wish I could put it on my wall, but I know you, so it's kind of weird. You know, people would say that to me. So, you know, what self-confidence do you have in that when it's just your flesh being exposed and that's what people know about you? They don't know about your personality, it doesn't matter. They don't know about what you believe in, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how you feel or what you want in your life, it doesn't matter. As long as you sell yourself. And that might be strong, but you're literally selling yourself. And I knew for myself, even though this was my profession at that time, and it paid me a lot. Alhamdulillah for that, it sustained me for a very long time. But I knew I had an education. I knew what my family background was. I knew my personality didn't quite fit into this starlet, this socialite kind of, you know, thing. Because I was always the talent that sat in the corner reading my thick novel, and then the director will come sit next to me. Oh, Lisa, you're not quite the typical model, are you? No, I'm not. You know, so I was that girl. So I was always very awkward, and you know, when you're a model and you're an actress, you're supposed to go out and be at events and have your photograph taken, you know? But it's so meaningless. I went once in a while, but I avoided it at all costs, because what you do is you wear as much as you can, and there's no underage children. If I can say this, you make yourself to look like sex on a plate as much as you can, so that the photographers will be attracted to you and take your photo and put your photo in a magazine. And then you're hoping that maybe you get, you know, invited for the next audition for some big movie, which never happens because everyone is drunk at the place. So it becomes this very difficult, you know, tight, it feels suffocating after a while, you know. There are people who strive in it very well, you know, obviously there's Hollywood, these people do very well in it. But for me, I started to feel like I was suffocating. And then the friends that I had at that time, you know, I was going through some issues and I thought, you know, I never go and party, I don't go to these events, I like to keep to myself. Maybe I should change, maybe that's the problem with me. Maybe that's why I feel like there's something wrong, you know. So I thought, okay, this is what I will do. I have never, I actually, that period when I was doing artistic photography with all the weird clothes and the bikinis and everything was only 7 months. You know, I've been in the industry since I was 12. But for 7 months I did those photos, and those, I mean, that's what people remember me as. That's crazy, you know? So, you know, I thought, okay, these few months, I'm going to go all out. Whatever people say in secular society is supposed to be good, I'm going to go do that. Okay, bikini shoots, lingerie shoots, you know, go to the parties, show myself, go to as many Johnny Walker parties as I can and meet as many people as I can. And by the end, I was like, I'm going crazy. This is not for me. What am I doing? My life is out of control. Now, remember, whenever I feel bad, I told you this before, whenever I felt bad, I would always go back to God. So the first thing I thought of was, I can't do this anymore. This life is just nuts. These people are crazy. I need to ground myself. I need to go back to religion. Okay, so that's exactly what I did. I stopped everything. I told everyone, look, I tried it out. It's not for me. I'm going back to becoming a hermit. I like staying at home. So I did that. I stepped back. And I thought, okay, I need to go find a church. Okay, so I started looking for a church. So I mean, I'm a good church girl, you know. I had my preacher father. I should go look for a church. But well, I'm sure it's Allah's protection again. I never found a church that I liked. You know, as a Christian, I always said to myself, if I go to church and my faith doesn't get stronger, but it drops, it's like your iman doesn't get stronger, but it actually drops, I'm not going to go to that church. So church after church after church, I searched. I didn't find a church that I could go to. All of them I felt was, there's just something wrong. There's just something that's just not right. You know? So I thought, okay, never mind. I have a brain. I have a master's degree. I know how to study. I'm a sociologist. I will go get the books. Let me go get the books. I got so many books until my father asked me, are you going to seminary? Are you going to become a preacher or what? Why do you have so many theology books? But you know, I got you know, the comparative religion books, I got the short history of Christianity books, I got the controversial books, the neutral books, the books by non-Christians, I got all the books. Yeah, but the first book that I picked up was a short history of Christianity. And I started to read it, and it isn't that I was shocked. Even though I went to a Jesuit school with monks, these monks were very honest. So they told me since I was 18 years old, I've known that the Bible was put together. That was something that the monks told me. They're very honest. Alhamdulillah for them. So, but when I picked up this book, and I was reading the short history of Christianity, I was reminded that, okay, the Bible is put together by men. Okay, so it's put together by men. It's not from God. I wonder how many things in it is actually from God. But there must be some kind of essence. Okay, never mind. So I'll leave the Bible issue for later. But then I started reading about, you know, all the wars and all of the crusades that, you know, happened in the early part of Christianity, I think. And I thought to myself, if this is a good religion, and it's a good belief, why do people have to kill other people to make them become Christians? It doesn't make sense. So I was like, okay, that was just too bloody. I can't accept it. It's just too bloody. So then I went back to the theology. Theology is the study of the actual, like, Aqidah. Yeah? So I was reading and I was like, there's so many different theories. You know, why did they choose Pauline theory? And Paul, or Saul, was actually someone who persecuted the Christians, who was against Jesus for part of the time. Why did they choose him? So I got to the point where I was like, okay, New Testament, I can't accept. It must be just made up. You know, this guy, he can't be trusted. So, New Testament out. So now I was left with the Old Testament. Old Testament is Torah, right? Or is supposed to be. But I said, okay, English, not exactly your most accurate language. So I thought, okay, if I'm going to take this on for myself, because I want grounding, I want to know the truth. I got to the point where, look, I just told God, I have no idea what I'm doing with my life. Yes, I'm making enough money, but I'm just like all over the place. Please ground me, show me the truth, because I know that you're there. So very different than you. I know, God, you're there. I don't think that Christianity, the way that I'm seeing right now, it might not be right. But if it's out there, if the real church is out there, let me find it. Give me the truth. What is the pure church? I'm going to go and search for the pure church. So I started thinking, okay, I'm going to go back 200 years, 300 years, 400 years to find the real church. I didn't find it, but I thought, okay, never mind, there's manuscripts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to learn Arabic, I'm going to learn Aramaic, I'm going to learn Orthodox Greek, I'm going to learn Hebrew, and I'm going to read the original stuff. Okay, once I got to that point, I was like, I'm not really sure about Christianity, I'm not sure if I'm going to find the real church, but there was a friend, here comes the friend, and this friend was Muslim, and they knew that I was on this journey, and they said to me, Eliza, look, you're a pretty good Christian, okay, and you're on this search for God, but do you know that, you know, we Muslims and you Christians have the same God? I was like, really? It didn't quite occur to me, but really? So and they said, well, maybe you can come to my class, which is the same class that she was going to. So I said, okay, well, I said, I had a lot of Jewish friends when I was young. I know that the Jews and Christians have the same God, but I don't think Judaism was for me, because I grew up with them. It's kind of weird. So I said, okay, well, if Islam or learning a little bit about the Muslims is going to take me closer to the real church, since we have the same roots, I'll go and do that. So, you know, going from this height in secular everything, so, you know, for the secular side, you know, the less clothes you wear, the more liberated you are, right? So now I'm coming back, I've put on some more clothes because I've become the tame Christian again, right? So now I'm going to this class where my friends took me to buy a baju Melayu for the first time, and this scarf thing. So I was like, okay, more clothes is being put on, but it feels good, okay, protected, okay. So I go to this class, and I'm quite surprised, because the way that my friend presented it to me was that, look, Eliza, this is a very open class. There's non-Muslims there, there's Muslims there. There's just people who want to improve their life. It's just, you know, improving your life. And I said, okay, life improvement is good, because I think that I'm going crazy right now. So I went, and what I heard was very familiar to me. You know, remember, I'm searching for the pure church. I actually want to know exactly how God wants to be worshipped, because I want to be guided now. I want to be grounded. And what I heard was very familiar. You know, the stories of the prophets. I know all the prophets. They were taught to me when I was little in my Sunday school. But how come the Muslims have more detail? How come their stories are more lively? You know, and these Christian values that I grew up with, you know, of honesty, of patience, of love for other people, of service. How come the Muslims have it too, but how come I can see it? I can see it. And it seems like they extend it out as well. So now, you know, my perception of the first Muslim Malaysians that I met is kind of out. Yeah, the whole totally wild is kind of out. Because I see everyone is covered. This lady gets really angry at me if my scarf slips and tells me to put it back on. Okay, all right. So, so everyone is kind of like, okay, covered. Everyone is quiet. Quiet. I'm like shaking a little bit. Sorry. When I tell my story, I'm like a little bit like excited. So I go to this class, and this is the summary is this. If Christianity was like my bachelor's degree, because I really think that I came from Christianity. Christians can be very good. The Christian religion can be very good. So I see Christianity as like the bachelor's degree, but I see Islam as a PhD. It was like an upgrade, totally an upgrade. The stories were better, the way that it was explained was better, the answers were better, nothing contradicted. And above that, also not like Marianne, I was looking for rules. I wanted rules, I wanted structure, because I was like, what does it mean to be a good person? You know, in my sociology class, it's like, I learned that what's good in one society might be bad in another society. This, in American society, is very bad in Italy. This is like a swear word in Italy. You know, so it's like, what is good? What is actually good? What am I doing? I have no idea what I'm doing, because I thought what I was doing was good, but it's obviously not, because I feel so lost. So, you know, once I saw the structure in Islam and the rules, I was attracted to the rules. And even when I learned about hijab, it was a little bit tough, because, you know, my profession was to take clothes off, right? So now I'm supposed to put clothes on, but the thing is that I felt liberated. No longer was I judged by my hair. My agent would call me every 2 weeks, Elisa, is your hair the same? Did you color it? Did you cut it? What about your fingernails? Did you cut your fingernails? I would have to actually tell someone when I cut my hair, when I cut my fingernails. Can you imagine how enslaving that can be? So now it's like, oh, if I cover my hair, I don't have to do my hair. But I mean, I understood also modesty and protection, but it was more like, I don't have this burden of superficiality anymore. You know, people don't judge me and value me just because of the way that my hair looks anymore, the way my body looks anymore, whether I'm wearing the latest fashion. It's now more in tune with what I believe myself to be, which is an intelligent individual. So now it's no more, yeah, people still look at what I wear. I mean, what I wear is very Western, and that's what they see, but what's more so is that you hear my voice. You hear my voice, you hear my stories, you hear my intellect, which is much more important, you know, instead of, does she have a scar on her hand or whatever it is, you know? So I started to feel like this aligning. I felt like Islam fit my personality. I felt like the stories in Islam I'm very familiar with. In fact, I might know a lot more than some of the born Muslims because I grew up with a Christian, you know, preacher father. I might know more of them, but now I have more details. All of the values, almost every single thing that was presented in front of me, I accepted immediately. And it was not like, oh, maybe, no, it was immediate. Okay. It was just that. The only two things that I couldn't accept at first was the story of the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, because of course I had learned one thing my whole life. But when I said to myself, well, if God wanted to do something else, could he? And the answer, of course, is yes. Then okay, I slowly adjusted. And then, of course, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I knew nothing about him at all. So it wasn't like this immediate love for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you know? So after I could kind of get my head around these two, it was very evident to me that I was Muslim my whole life. I just didn't know what it was called. I have been submitting to God my whole life. Whenever I was in trouble, I always ran back to God. Whenever I prayed, I always prayed to the Lord, never to the sun, or very rarely to the sun that I can remember. So in my eyes, in my life, I felt like I felt his presence all of my life. I knew that I was Muslim my whole life. But now, was I willing to submit or not? Now, my submission came as a surprise. It was actually the day that I was supposed to meet Marianne. And we were supposed to go to lunch, and all of a sudden, the substitute teacher at the center asked me, "Oh, Lisa, so how are you doing?" I said, "Okay, but I need a Quran. I need an American Quran that doesn't have thee, thou, have, because I don't get it. I need just a normal American English Quran. Can you give me one?" He's American too. So he gave me one. He was like, "Do you have any questions?" And actually, I had no questions that day, but I thought, okay, he's nice enough to offer me some of his time, so I'll just sit down with him and see what he has to say. And I mean, he knew kind of my background and what I was doing and how gung-ho I was at reading. I was gung-ho reading 3 months. It only took me 3 months to become Muslim. Okay, but I was reading like day and night. I couldn't put down, the books were like 3 a day, pamphlets, many a day, and I couldn't put them down. So he shot those questions to me, and it just like, boom! And he was very American about it, because he knew that I was American too. Okay, so first thing he asked me, "So how much do you know?" So I told him a little bit. He was like, "SubhanAllah, you know quite a lot." I was like, "Yeah, but I need to know more." So now he knows that I'm a perfectionist. Anyone who knows me knows that I'm a perfectionist. I want to get everything right. So he was like, "So, Eliza, how much more do you need to read?" I was like, "I don't know. I feel like I need to learn how to read the Quran. I need to learn Arabic first. I need to learn how to pray first. And, you know, I need to know all these things first so that when I revert, I know all my sins are clear and I don't start doing all this bad stuff or wrong stuff." And he's like, "So, how long is that going to take?" "I don't know. I don't know. What do you think? 5 years? 10 years? Well, you better not die tomorrow." What? Yeah, when you drive away from here, you know, you better buckle up and, you know, make sure you don't get into a car accident, make sure you don't get hurt, you don't die. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? He's like, "Well, you know all these things now and you're going to be accountable." Ooh. Okay, but then I was like, "No, but you know, you don't understand. I'm a perfectionist, so I need to know a level before, you know, I can reason and then I can accept with knowledge." And he was like, "Eliza, do you know that Allah will only give you a certain notch up in knowledge only when you actually submit and show His sincerity?" Okay, you might not think so, but this is the one that got me. I started to cry and I was like, "What do you mean? I can't be perfect? I can't know everything." I know it sounds so dumb, but that was me. I was like, "What? You mean that no matter how much I study and read and prove myself, I'm not going to get to that level that I want?" And I was like, this is not good. This is not going the way that I want. So I started to cry at that point. He was like, "Why don't you just submit yourself?" Arrow number 2. You might not think so, but remember, I had felt that I have been Muslim my whole life. I just didn't know what it was called. So he said, "You can't be perfect," and he said, "You haven't really submitted." I was offended. So what do you mean I haven't submitted? I have been Muslim my whole life. So I told him, he was like, "No, Lisa, if you think that you've been Muslim your whole life, you actually have to declare it. That's how you show your sincerity to someone, even if it's a human, you know? How do they know unless you tell them?" I was like, "Oh man, yeah, that's true." And he asked, "So are you ready?" He just went ahead and asked. And there was a small part of me that said, "I'm not ready, but only because I'm afraid that I'm going to hurt my parents." But that was like 0.0000001%. The other 99.99999% was, I know that I've been Muslim my whole life. I cannot deny the truth. It's so obvious. It's so obvious. You know? And number 3, if Allah wants me to be a Muslim and He's showing all these things out, am I really going to say no to God? That's crazy. You know, He's going to be really mad then. You know? So I was like, if He wants me to become a Muslim, there's no way that I can't submit. You know, there's no way. I just have to do it. So, subhanAllah, that day I took my shahada. I was supposed to meet her and then follow a Muslim lady around to see what Muslim ladies are like. It turned out that I became a Muslim and became a Muslim lady and went to learn from her. She was my first imam, actually. I prayed behind her. Well, no, Sharif was, and then when I went out, she was my second imam. So she's very special to me. And when I went to get my new Muslim card, she was also one of my witnesses. Alhamdulillah. But so my journey is like very 360, don't you think? Like model, and then this. And then, you know, now it's like I've caught the bug. And I call it the dawah bug. You know, I grew up with a father who's a missionary, who has been preaching his whole life. I know how to preach. I know how to talk. So, and then it's like anybody, when you're excited about something, you find something that you really love, you just can't keep it. You know, you just want to share it all the time. And I'm not a scholar. I don't know a lot of things, but I love sharing. And I think it's the same for these two, even though they know a lot more than me. Yeah, I'm 2.5 years old. I'm a 2.5-year-old Muslim. I actually did my diploma. So when you were talking about you should always better yourself, and I'm not saying that I'm better, but because I'm a perfectionist, I actually started the diploma program when I was 8 months old. About 8 months, or a year plus old. I didn't know Arabic, nothing. So whenever the teacher wrote Arabic, I was like, oh, skip. Right? He said something in Arabic. He said the names of the prophets. Sometimes I didn't know them in Arabic. He said names of the Sahaba. I was like, okay, I'll try to figure out who this is later. You know, but I got so much from it. So you know, one of the takeaways that maybe you can take is that don't think that you're too lacking. Don't think that you're too rusty or that you're too old or whatever it is. You're never too old, you're never too rusty to just learn. And even if it's difficult for you, look, if you got 5 fingers, okay? And the easy thing is to go to number 3, okay? But if you strive for the hard one, number 5, and you get to 4, isn't that even more than 3? At least it's more than 3, right? So don't always take the easy way out. Just push yourself. I actually didn't know if I was going to be awarded the diploma or not. I thought I might not be, and I would have to take it over again. But I think because I was very hardworking, I was like, I gotta know. I'm not, you know, other people know more than me, but I talk a lot because I can talk, right? I was like, I got points from talking in class. And I was like, everyone seems to know more than me. I have to work harder, I have to look things up. But that's part of the learning process, especially if you find it difficult. Yeah, so don't shy away from these things. And I love learning now. I love sharing. I don't know everything. And people assume that I know everything because I learn, immediately I share. And so, but that's part of the beauty of it, because I believe that the Muslims that I see who are interested in, especially these kind of events, you're very open to learning, you're very open to improving yourself, and that's part of the brotherhood and sisterhood that I find so beautiful. We're always sharing, we're always connected. It's just such a beautiful family in faith, really, really, a beautiful family in faith that you should never take for granted.
Wow, you see, American really can talk.
Sorry.
Yeah, no problem, but I think you guys enjoy it, right? You see, there is it's quite contradict between both of them. Okay, when Mariam becomes Muslim, she don't really take into consideration the rules. Okay, because what she needs is that, okay, yeah, this is the right one for me. But whereas she's looking for rules, quite contradict, right? So it's like also some lesson for us in the sense that sometimes we look too much into the halal and haram, but we forgot the most fundamental things, which is the submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But whereas for her, it's like she loved the rules. But in fact, last time I used to think that, you know, come and become a free thinker. You don't have to follow any rules, and then that's it, man. But again, that will defy logic, because you need rules. The rules is there to protect the majority. You have to follow the rules. Just imagine, if I'm going to give you a choice, 2 choices, a country with law and a country without law, which one you prefer to go? For sure, you will choose a country with law. Why? Because a country without law, I don't think you feel safe to go. Wait, man, suddenly you get robbed and then say, this is not, get used to it, it's our own culture, it's okay. But where's the police? No police and no law. Just imagine that. Any religion that don't have a do and don'ts, it's not a religion. But Islam is precisely to make the life easier for you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Surah Al-Hajj, chapter 22 verse 78, that Allah has made this religion easy for you. And Allah says in Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter 2 verse 286, that He will not overburden a soul more than he can bear. Which means it's easier for you. So all the rules is to protect ourselves. Because you see, Marian says, the Creator know better than the creations. Right? Now, the floor is open to all of you now to ask few questions. Because just now, I think the MC said that you will have some time to hang around for iftar. I don't think you have time to hang around because it will last until the final moment of adhan. Yeah? Or you guys want to stop here? I can stop here now. What do you think? No? Okay, now please proceed with the question. If not, yes, sister. Can we have a mic? If you can shout, why not?
We can share the mic. It's okay.
Actually, sister, I really want to know what actually drives you, or what actually opens your heart to go to the Islamic Center.
I am ashamed to admit.
Not Jibril coming to open your heart.
No, unfortunately not. So you know, I'm a typical urban girl, right? What do I care about thinking about religion in particular? I was dating a Muslim at the time. And you know, in Malaysia, I actually used to think, oh my God, what can make you, force you into religion, right? But you know, looking back, alhamdulillah, I think it's an amazing thing. But that was a lost path for me. So because of that, I said, oh, you know, okay, if anything's going to come out of this, I have to be Muslim. But me being me, very stubborn, I actually told him, I am not going to become a Muslim for you. I don't want to be a hypocrite Muslim. I don't want to be someone who just take the Shahada and Muslim in name, but then, you know, I'll be like eating in secret during Ramadan, or, you know, and all that. I don't want. I rather not have anything to do with you anymore than to be a pretend Muslim. And I think on his part as well, right, to him, he said, I also agree, because wherever it is, how things turn out, we never know. And if we have children in the future, if we do get married, we have children in the future, if you're a fake Muslim, and because you're the mother, you might get custody of the children, then you're going to bring the children up as fake Muslims or non-practicing Muslims, and they all go to Jahannam with you. You know, that's what I want for my children. So he said, yes, please go and learn, and, you know, decide for yourself. So it started from there, really. So my arrogant attitude going to the class was, I think this is man-made. I am not expecting great things out of this class, but the standard I set for myself is, if I can tahan, if I can tolerate Islam, that means not going to make me feel like I want to puke and walk around like a hypocrite, then I will consider becoming Muslim. But of course, Allah had other plans. I fell so much in love with Islam, it came to a point when I told him, look, I want to be a Muslim. I don't care if it works out between the two of us. I'm becoming Muslim for me. Alhamdulillah. So that was, yeah, that was how I started going. You know, I want to say this, it's probably irrelevant to your question, but it's something that I think is important. It's like what Firdaus was saying earlier. That, you know, sometimes it gets annoying. I don't find it annoying. I actually like sharing, because I hope it can be beneficial. But you know, when more Muslims come to us and say things like, you know, can you tell me a story? I want to hear your story to Islam. What was your journey and all that? You know, for me, I love sharing, but only if it's beneficial. And I think there is something wrong in Malaysia, and there is the assumption that if you're born Muslim, you're safe. Alhamdulillah. You know? Because the next thing that will come after you tell them the story is that they will say, MashaAllah, Alhamdulillah, so good, sister. You know, you're just new Muslim compared to me, non-Muslim. You know so much, and now I know so little. I feel so bad. Then after that, that's it, bye, Assalamualaikum. And then they're back to like being the Muslim that they said that they're not so happy with being. So I feel like nothing changes after that. That's pointless. Then there's no point in hearing any story or anything like that, like the story without the lesson. But the thing that I think we forget, and I remind myself first, Allah granting me Hidayah was an amazing, amazing gift. It is a chance for Jannah, but it is not a ticket to Jannah, right? It is not how we were born or where I am now. It is how we end up. So there is no reason for a born Muslim to feel safe. Like, it's okay, I'll just tell you, oh, mashallah, you're so good, and you know, I'm not so good, but that's okay. Because it's not okay. It's not okay. And for a for someone who has been a non-Muslim before, from where we were, we look at all of you and we think, MashaAllah, not only were you born with this incredible gift in your hand already, it's like you were born with like these seeds, right? You just have to plant it and water it and it grows into these amazing fruit trees that you can feed for generations, right? And everyone in your family has a bag of seeds in their hands, and that's what you guys have. What we have, yeah, we have seeds. Okay, alhamdulillah, we decided to plant the seeds, but we still have family who doesn't have any seed in their hand, right? As much as we can do, as much as we can pray, we have no idea if the mother who brought us up, if the father who loved us to death, as close as Aliza is to her dad, right? We have no idea if we will ever see them again. At least you have that, right? When you look at your mom and your dad, if you part in this life, you know, inshallah, mommy, I'll see you in Jannah. I cannot say that to my mom. I don't know. We don't know. And that is something that we must never, ever, ever take for granted. So if we sit on our seats and just put it in our pocket and just keep telling people who are planting that, alhamdulillah, so good, mashallah, you're so good, so good, so good, and I'm just not like that, I think it's like such a waste, you know what I mean? Yeah, and so I think it's important not just to make sure we plant that and water it and make sure we nurture it and all that, hire farmers to help us if we have to, but also, of course, try and share those seeds with others. And that's what Firdaus started MRM for. That's why Aliza and I are here. It's not just to tell a story, because who cares about our story, right? Is to hope to encourage everyone in this room, not just to appreciate what we have, but also to try and spread that. Because everyone deserves the right to paradise. Right? So next time we look at our non-Muslim friends or our non-Muslim relatives we may have, just remember that we were born with something that they don't have, and it's something that we should not be selfish with. It's something that we should try our best to share. If you want to know how, then of course, you know, that's probably a good place to start. I'm sorry I went beyond your original question, but I just felt it was something that I wanted to say. Yeah.
Now, of course, you have listened that Mariam mentions that being born as a Muslim doesn't mean that you're going to paradise. Yeah, this was narrated in a hadith in Tirmidhi, where the Prophet ﷺ says that some people, they will perform that kind of act of people of paradise, but by the end of the time, when they almost die, okay, they will perform the act of people who the Alu Jahannam. But there are some people who throughout their whole life, entire life, perform that kind of act of people of Jahannam, but at the end of the life, they perform that kind of act of people of paradise, and they will be entering paradise. So, being a Muslim means that it's a marathon. It's regardless of where you start, how you start, but at the end of the day, you have to finish the race. But finish the race doesn't mean that you must, okay, now I have the tag. I'm a marathon runner, but hey, do you have that kind of stamina to last that marathon? Do you have the kind of knowledge how to endure the entire marathons? Because sometimes you have to speed, sometimes you have to slow down. All these things is come back to knowledge. It's coming back to our knowledge. And like what she said, of course I need to do a little bit elaboration and sharing, because it's so inspiring that, you see, she said that she doesn't have any Muslim to talk to her about Muslim Islam. Of course I don't talk about the American style, but we're talking about that in Malaysia, where the Muslims are 68% here, which means we only left with 32% not yet Muslim out there. Just imagine every single Muslim is doing their job. Talk to someone. Which means you have everybody understand a little bit about Islam. But can we safely say so, the colleague who work next to us in our workstations? Every day they look at Muslim. But do they know Islam? Anybody can claim that their colleague next in front of them know about Islam? No. None of us dare to say so. Because why? We can say that because we never really give our effort to share the message of Islam. We thought that Islam is so exclusive. MashaAllah, I have it then. That's it. I have all the seats for me, man. Not for you. Look at you. Alu Jahannam. You will become the stone and the human that Allah said will be burned in the hellfire. Well, you see, I'm an Alu Jannah. This is the kind of attitude that we should not have. The Prophet said, those who do not love the people around you, the ones who are above will not love you as well. Yeah. So please proceed with the next questions. Yes, brother. Maybe you can pass the mic. You can address to both of them, but don't address to me. Okay, I'm just a moderator. Yeah.
Assalamualaikum.
Salam.
Yes, this is an open question. I just want to know some of the things that Malays or Muslims say that really bugs you, that really throws you off. Maybe particularly in Malaysia, so that we can avoid it next time. But generally also.
I told you. I told you. Just a quick one, okay? Because anybody want to ask the questions next? I want to know. So at least I can cut her off when the time is needed. Anybody after this? Any other questions? No? MashaAllah, okay. One more. Anybody? Beat? No more? Okay, then come.
I wouldn't say that there was a specific thing that was said to me that I was like, what? You know, but it was more of an attitude. For me, it was more the attitude of, oh, you're a new Muslim, you are my prey. And it's like, people want to like just, and I'm sure everyone is well-meaning, but there's a way to give advice, and then there's a way to give advice, you know? There's like a, don't do this, don't do that. If you do this, it's not good. You know, if you're going to keep doing that, you're going to hell. Why'd you become Muslim for? Okay. I mean, I kind of took my time. I wasn't as high profile, and you know, I kept my profile very low when I reverted, because I knew that people are not patient. You know, people are not patient. Muslims want to give advice, and that is a beautiful thing. But then after you give the advice, you're not patient. And not specifically you, okay? But just in general. It's like you have to think, if you're going to advise a new Muslim, you have to think about yourself. How old are you? 30-something? 40-something? How long did it take you to get to where you are right now? And you expect a new Muslim in 2 days to become you? It's very difficult. It's near impossible. Please be patient with your revert brothers and sisters. You know, so it was more the attitude of, you have to do this now. You became Muslim, you gotta do it now. You know, and it wasn't like, I know nothing. I know nothing. But what I know is that your religion is beautiful. So please don't ruin it for me because your character is not beautiful right now. So it was more that attitude that I got that was like, hey, give me a break, man. I'm still learning. I'm doing the best that I can. But again, I took 1 year, low profile, very low profile, until I actually announced my reversion, because I knew that people would be impatient. So by the time that I announced, I was already in hijab, I had already finished most of the contracts for modeling, so I was already quite adjusted. I already told my parents everything, so I was very adjusted. But the people that knew me during that time, you know, because I started going to different classes, I started going to Al-Maghrib classes, to other classes as well, where people would be like, you know, sister, I think your bun is too high. Do you know that the women who have a camel hump hair, they won't smell the fragrance of Jannah? I'm like, okay. So I rushed to the sheikh, of course. I was like, sheikh, this woman just said this to me. Is it true? And he's like, why is she saying that to you? You're like, what, 3 weeks old? You're actually wearing a hijab. Look at all the Muslims not wearing hijab. So please give us a break. You know, we're learning as fast as we can, and believe me, the reverts want to learn. Yeah, so it wasn't, I wouldn't say it was a specific, you know, it wasn't really a specific advice that I was like, whoa, you know, it was more the attitude. It was a very impatient attitude, and I know everyone means well, and they don't want us to, you know, start tarnishing our slate because it's so clean. I understand, but the way that we receive it, it's very hurtful, actually. Yeah, and I also wanted to add to what you were saying, just a step further, is because I'm someone who's very vocal online as well, and I don't give my opinions, but I like to share stuff. So sometimes people, born Muslims, come and ask me, Lisa, how come it's so easy for you to just, you know, talk about Islam? It's so hard for me. You know, people tell me I should share, and I want to share, but it's so hard. You know, people ask me all these things that I've never thought about. You know, I've never thought about, you know, exactly why I myself wear the hijab. I know that my mother wore it. I know that my grandmother wore it, so I just kind of wear it. Or you know, why I wear socks and the other girl doesn't. And I never really thought about it. You know, so some of my poor Muslim friends will ask me these things. So don't worry. We remember that, you know, one of the easiest ways to do da'wah is actually to just practice your religion well. Just have good character. You know, if you have like a neighbor, 3 neighbors like I do who are non-Muslim, maybe this Ramadan will be the Ramadan where you take some, you know, food to them and be like, hey, it's Ramadan. Here's some food for you. You know, or I have a non-Muslim maid. She's from the Philippines, so that gives me a lot of, you know, leeway to be like, hey, I'm fasting today. Do you know what fasting is? This is why we fast. So you know, it's like little things that you can practice. But the other thing is that I also get other non-Muslims who come to talk to me, and they themselves have a mental block. I mean, I met this one lady who is doing everything according to Sunnah. Her investments, everything is according to Sunnah, Quran and Sunnah compliant, everything, except for the one thing that she can't do is she can't keep her hijab on. And she was actually crying to me. It's like, Lisa, why is it so easy for you being a revert of not, at that time, not even 2 years? Why is it so easy for you to wear hijab? And I cannot keep it on even though for 20 years I've been trying to put it on. And for some reason, maybe you have to do some da'wah on your Muslim friend as well. You know, because I see that some of the Muslims in this country have a mental block. And they keep hearing, you know, you don't wear a hijab until you're 40, until you're married. You know, you don't wear the headscarf until you're ready. You get this hidayah. You don't do that. But they forget that it's, you know, it's a command. You know, for the reverts, we actually choose the religion. So what we choose, we want to be good in. So when I put on my hijab, I tell you the truth, I didn't love the hijab. It was hot. I didn't know how to put it on. It didn't look so good. You know, but I knew if I choose something, I just have to do it. And slowly, it will go into the heart. You know, so I find that these could be 2 problems that you could be facing. You might really want to talk about Islam, but number 1, you don't really know because you've never done it. You grew up with it, so how do you do it? And number 2 is that even if you know how to do it, you feel inadequate because maybe there's some aspects of yourself that you think, you know, it's not quite there and you have this mental block. Don't worry. Just practice your religion as well as you can and just be friendly, you know, show good character. And that is one of the easiest ways to do the da'wah.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah. I want to add on, yeah, before your questions, okay? The thing that you're not supposed to ask a reward is especially to the Chinese, yeah, okay, is that, hey, brother, the pork nice or not? I tell you, this is a very sensitive question. It's like I'm asking a born Muslim, a Malay that, hey, the beef, kurma, best. What you going to answer? You're going to tell me, hey, bro, you crazy. If it's not delicious, do you think I'm going to eat for 20 over years? So if you are like asking me pork, is it nice or not? It's like you're asking me, are you crazy eating something which is not delicious for 20 over years? Come on, if the pork is not nice, do you think I'm going to eat for 20 over years? Makes sense, right? So, come on, don't ask that kind of things. Rather than you, and of course, do not ask a question like, you know, oh, why you become Muslim? It's like you are questioning. Why is that questioning? But instead, you should put into a better perspective in the sense that, hey, what is the beauty of Islam that attracts you to become a Muslim? Even though they become Muslim because of marriage, never mind. But when you put that kind of question in that way, they have to find a reason. Oh, the beauty of it. Oh yeah, you know, the Malay girl is very beautiful. Yeah, it's very beautiful. But yeah, you put it in a positive way rather than in a negative way that they have to justify why they have become Muslim. Then why not I ask you, why you become Muslim? What are you going to answer me? Because my parents are born Muslim. There's no such thing as born Muslim, right? Everyone is born Muslim then. You don't ask a question to ask people to justify why they choose certain thing. But as a Muslim, we should ask, hey, what is the beauty of Islam that attracts you to become a Muslim? And of course, like Aliza said, hijab, you know, sometimes it's blah blah blah. It's just like me. I have a choice to grow, to allow my beard to grow. I didn't grow this beard, okay? I didn't go to Yunnan hair care and plant and seed, okay? I just allow it to grow, I don't cut it, that's it. Yeah. It's just that I was in the corporate world as well, as a senior account manager. I mean, I'm serviced a lot of big clients, corporate clients, patrons, one of it. And just imagine when I grow my beard, my boss is a non-Muslim and they start to ask me, why you want to become Taliban now? Are you going to have money to buy a shaver? I was like, what's wrong? They said, no, you're this. They didn't want to say this. You're this. I said, what's wrong? They said it's not this long, okay? It just, you know, when you start to grow it, not to grow, it's like, so my mom asked me, why are you growing it? I said, you are I'm not yet 40, 50. Let's 40, 50 come then. You grow, then you will look nicer, you know. I said, why not? So they start to discriminate me, ridicule me for following the sunnah. I say, I never get any statistic from any studies that says people who grow beard will affect their performance as a salespeople. Is there any? I don't think so, right? That's why you see both of them, right? Their hijab, they have like the Zianazin stance. The teacher. Okay. They don't know who is Zianazin, never mind. We understand. Okay, brother. Proceed.